Hi guys, my name is Harish Krishnan, Chartered Accountant practicing in Hyderabad and also a faculty for CIPCC Auditing and Information Technology and Strategic Management, and at CA final level I also deal again with auditing and Information Systems Control and Audit. Alright, right now we're going to deal with IPCC subject, Strategic Management, worth 50 marks. Right, in this video all that I'm going to do is cover all the 7 chapters as a quick revision. So that it is helpful for your exams. Let's do this in less than 45 minutes. Let's try and have a quick look at all the concepts that are there in the 7 chapters, right? I hope you understand the move of the strategic management right from top to bottom, right? It starts with understanding business environment. From there it goes up till reaching strategic edge. So on that note, let me start off with a quick idea on the chapter number 1, where you're talking about business environment. Business environment is a chapter that deals with what is business and what is the surrounding, and from there on it goes up till the 5 forces model of Michael Porter. So let me take you through the first concept that we're dealing as to business, right? What is business, right? We all know business is a state of being busy. Business is a state of being busy. It's one's occupation or a profession. We've seen that to be occupation or a profession. Then Peter Drucker's 2 conclusions about business are very important at this point, right? Business cannot be measured in terms of profit. Business can never be explained in terms of profit. At the same time, business is created and managed by people. Created and managed by people. These are the 2 conclusions that Peter Drucker put forth. Moving on are the objectives of business, right? Objectives of business: survival, stability, growth, efficiency, and profitability. These are the 5 basic objectives of business. Moving on, these are 2 concepts of business and business objectives. Then moving on, we're going to environment, where we're talking about what is environment, right? In this context, we will be talking about what is the business surrounding. Environment consists of 2 broad things, guys. One is internal, the other one is external. Internal environment has strengths and weaknesses. External environment has opportunities and threats. Strength is a favorable situation, that means it's an inherent capability to do something, while weakness is an inherent limitation. When you talk about opportunity, it's a favorable condition, and when you talk about a threat, that is an unfavorable condition. These are the 4 points that we need to understand. Then we have a topic which is talking about problems in understanding the environment, right? 3 problems, guys: complexity, uncertainty, and diversity. Diversity means too many number of factors, complexity is just difficult to understand, and uncertainty means it keeps changing. To overcome these 3 problems, there's a framework. You can go through the framework. There are again 3 points: taking an initial view, doing the audit of environmental influences, and point number 3 talks about focusing explicitly on those which are going to influence us directly. That's the framework. Then the 4 characteristics which are very important. That could be a probable short answer question in the exam, right? Environment is complex, multi-phased, dynamic, and has a far-reaching impact. Far-reaching impact, this is what it is. Then we categorize environment into the external environment is classified. External environment is classified again into 2 broader circles, where there's a closer circle and then there's a broader circle, right? In the closer circle, we have immediate factors like competitors, customers and suppliers. Then we have competition in 3 forms: rivals, substitutes, and new entrants. These are people who can influence you very closely. Up next is about economy at large, right? We have economy at large to influence us. Then laws and regulations in a country will influence us. Demography and population can influence us. societal values can influences, and technology is also something that influences. So this is what the study of external environment is. And then relationship between firm and external environment is about three things. It's about exchange of three things: exchange of resources, exchange of information, and exchange of influence and power. Right? So these are the basic concepts with respect to business, the objectives of business, environment, and the relationship that it shares. Up next, coming up, we have two topics to catch up with: micro environment and macro environment. Right? In micro and macro, we have several factors, and this has been one probable question in the exam which has come several times, guys: micro and macro environment. So business environment is classified broadly into micro and of course macro environment. Micro has 6 factors. Let me give you a shortcut here. The word cosmic is my key term to remember the 6 micro factors. C for customers or consumers. O for organization, which has 3 things, right, which is the board of, which is owners, board of directors and employees. S for suppliers, M for market, and I for intermediaries, and the last C is for competitors. These are the 6 micro factors. Moving on to the other side, we are talking about macro factors. Then again we have a PESTLE analysis to take care. So this time I am using the same thing. P for political, E for economic, S for socio-cultural, T for technology, and L for legal. So if you look at it, political and legal are situations which are together, and E for environment, where I am talking about 2 things here. One is the demographic environment. Demography, guys, this alone could be a separate short answer question, each one of these, right? In that, demography is very important. In demography, you have 4 points to cover up with, right? Population size, geographical distribution, ethnic mix, and income distribution. So these are the 4 points here. And then of course global environment is also part of the macro environment. So right now on screen you see cosmic, which is the 6, shortcut for 6 of the micro factors, while this is the macro setup. Right, the next concept that is in the first chapter is dealing with globalization. Right, we have 4 concepts in globalization, guys. Globalization talks about, so I'm going with globalization. Very important concept, has come in the exam several times. Globalization. Globalization first is talking about the definition of globalization, that is going beyond the boundaries of home country. That's globalization. Then 3 characteristics of a global company. 3 characteristics of the global company are: it has a common, 3 things in common: common strategy, common pool of resources, and common ownership. There are 3 things in common. Then 2 more concepts to catch up with are: why should we go for globalization? Why should we go for globalization? Right? 8 reasons are there on why you should go for globalization. Right? From rapid shrinking in distance and time, global technology, right, global infrastructure. So you have 8 reasons which you can catch up with globalization. And then the effects of globalization. What are the effects of globalization? There are 9 points. Let me give you a shortcut here. Peace film is a shortcut that I use to remember all the 9 points. P for privatization, I for interlinked and interdependent economies. Interlinked and interdependent economies. 1E for entrepreneurship, and C for configuring anywhere in the world. Configuring anywhere in world. And E for efficiency. And F for formation of regional blocks. I for infrastructure. Then L for lower trade and tariff barriers. lower trade and tariff barriers, and M lastly for mobility of skilled resources, mobility of skilled resources. So guys, this, if it comes in the exam, you should make it very easy for you. This is a shortcut. Then coming up next is the strategic responses to changes in the environment. Three responses that we have are least resistance, proceed with caution, and the third one is a dynamic response, which means least resistance is about going slow, proceed with caution is about watchful eye, watching very carefully and then going, and dynamic response is a very faster one, right? Then we have competition in cooperation, right? Competition, we have the next one, and then we also have a concept called cooperation in competition. How do we cooperate in competition? 4 ways are there here also, right? Forming small groups you form called cartels. Then you have same family business, co-branding and tie-up arrangements, and lastly kiretsu is something that is formed. Then the last concept in the first chapter is about the 5 forces model. Michael Porter's 5 forces model talks about a firm being influenced by buyers' bargaining power and suppliers' bargaining power, while the other 3 factors continue to remain the same from competition: rivals, substitutes, and new entrants. These are the 5 forces. Guys, please remember, buyers and suppliers are not the force. Buyers and suppliers are humans. Buyers' bargaining power and suppliers' bargaining power are the force. Alright, that's it. That's what we have in the very first chapter of strategic management, where we have discussed right from what is business to what are the 5 forces that influence a business. Moving on to chapter number 2. Chapter number 2 is a discussion on business policy and strategic management. In this chapter, we will be discussing about what business policy is, what management is, and what strategy is. Let me first introduce you to the 2 definitions that are very important. One is management, the other one is strategy. According to Peter Drucker, management is a function, a discipline, and a task to be done, and people who do it are called managers. So he phrases it out like this: management is a function, discipline, and a task to be done, while managers perform the function, practice the discipline, and discharge the task. That's his way of putting it up. Then Dalton McFarlane gave a very good definition for what management is all about, right? In his words, he says management is a process with a sequence of steps. Management is a process whereby managers create, direct, maintain, and operate a purposive organization. So you're creating, maintaining, and directing a purposive organization through systematic, coordinated, and cooperative human efforts. Those are the 2 definitions of management. Then there are 2 definitions of strategy as well. Strategy is a long range blueprint of an organization's desired image, direction, and a destination. The other definition given by William F. Glueck for strategy is: strategy is a unified, comprehensive, and an integrated plan of action designed to achieve the basic objectives of business. Unified, comprehensive, and an integrated plan designed to achieve the vision. That is what, in his words, strategy is all about. So that is management and that is strategy, 2 key terms in your subject. Then we have one small and important concept called as corporate strategy. What is corporate strategy? Corporate strategy is talking about 5 things, and corporate strategy is the growth design of the firm. Let me quickly help you with corporate strategy. That could be a question in the exam. What does corporate strategy ensure? Guys, corporate strategy ensures growth of the firm, right? We have 5 topics, 5 points to cover. Corporate strategy ensures what? Corporate strategy ensures growth of the firm. That's the first thing, growth. 2, it helps you fill strategic planning gap. It helps you fill the strategic planning gap. It provides relevant competitive advantages. When compared to the others, you have some kind of a advantage if you have a strategy. And then it provides a right fit, provides a right fit between firm and external environment, and then lastly harness all the opportunities. Harness is to make the best use of. So this is what corporate strategy is all about. Corporate strategy ensures growth, fills the strategic planning gap, provides relevant competitive advantages, provides the right fit between firm and external environment, and harness all the opportunities. There's some characteristics of corporate strategy which I would also want you to go through once, because that is also kind of important. Moving on, up next after the concept of corporate strategy comes in one of the most important topics in your syllabus, which is the definition of strategic management. What is the definition of strategic management, guys? Strategic management is a managerial process. Strategic management is a managerial process of creating vision, setting objectives, crafting a strategy, implementing that strategy, and take corrective actions whenever required, which is called as control. So control is about taking corrective actions. Strategic management is a managerial process of creating vision, setting objectives, crafting a strategy, implementing that strategy, and taking corrective actions whenever it is necessary. Guys, vision and objectives, once you create, that is a mind thing to do. And then afterward, before crafting the strategy, there's a lot of analysis that is required. So this is called as strategic analysis here. Crafting a strategy will involve crafting a business strategy. What business to do? This is about what. Then we are supposed to also craft a functional strategy on how to do, right? What to do and how to do. Business strategy is dealt in your chapter 4. Functional strategy is dealt in chapter number 5, while strategic analysis is dealt in chapter number 3. And of course, implementation is dealt in implementation and control both are dealt in chapter number 6. Now I hope you're getting a meaning of reading the subjects in a particular way. Strategic management definition is what we are doing in this entire subject, because that's what strategic management is all about. A managerial process of creating vision, setting objectives, doing the analysis, based on that crafting strategies, implementing the strategy, and controlling that, right? So this is what your entire syllabus is all about. Moving up with the next concept in this strategic management content is the framework of strategic management, where we are raising 5 questions, right? Guys, one of the framework is one thing that can ask in the exam. Framework, 5 points. Where are we now, which is called beginning. Where we want to go is called the end. How do you get there? The various means, and evaluation of, that means the selecting the best one, and lastly taking corrective actions if at all you are not reaching. Where are we now? Where we want to go? How do we get there? Which way is the best? And how to ensure success by taking corrective actions is what is built in the framework. Then there is one very important short answer question, guys, which is called importance of strategic management. 5 points are there here, guys. Let me give you a quick insight of 5 points. In point number 1, I want you to remember only one word called proactive. It means importance of strategic management says it helps the firm to be more proactive. Then there are 2 points in the second one, which means it helps you to provide a good future for the firm. I want you to remember 2 words. Then in the third one is talking about corporate defense mechanism, right? It's a very good corporate defense mechanism. Then in point number 4, I want you to remember 4 words. Provides framework for strategic planning. Provides framework strategic planning. And point number 5, I want you to remember 5 words. Core competencies and competitive advantages. Alright, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's how you got to remember this importance of strategic management. 1 word proactive, 2 word good future, 3 words corporate defense mechanism, 4 providing framework for strategic planning, and 5 core competencies and competitive advantages. That's what strategic management helps you with. Right, so that is what it is. And then there is a strategic management model, which is again talking about the definition, but it introduces you to strategic analysis. We are doing 2 analysis about the internal environment and external environment, which we will be completing in the third chapter. So right now we're talking about internal and external environmental analysis, right? Then topic number 14 in this particular series is about 3 key words. Vision, which is a roadmap for company's future. Vision is what? Roadmap for company's future. Mission is about present business scope. Present business scope. While objectives are performance targets which are changeable, and goals are closed ended and they are precise in nature, means fixed. Objectives you can change, guys, goals you can't change. And the last topic that we are dealing in this chapter is 3 levels of an organization. What are the 3 levels in an organization? The strategic level, the managerial level, and of course the operational level. So this is what you have in your second chapter, guys, where we discussed about management's definition, strategy definition, and then corporate strategy as a concept, and then we have the definition of strategic management, framework of strategic management, importance of strategic management, and then strategic management model, where we talk about internal and external analysis. And 3 key terms: vision, mission, objectives and goals, and of course the last topic to be dealt with is the 3 levels in an organization. That's what we have in your second chapter. With the third chapter, this is dealing on strategic analysis. Pretty simple chapter, guys. Chapter 3 is dealing with strategic analysis, where we have 2 parts to this, 4 strategic analysis, right? First of which we'll be talking about a situational analysis. So strategic analysis is broken down into 4 analysis. It is not always important to analyze ourselves alone. It's also important to check our competitors sometimes, then our own strengths and weaknesses, and there comes a very important concept for multi-product businesses called the portfolio analysis, right? So in this context, in strategic analysis, we are first dealing with something called as a situation analysis. Situation analysis deals with a question called, where are we now? So it is discussing about the current scenario, where are we now? In answering this, guys, let me give you a shortcut to remember here. I use the shortcut called PROCODE, which is about the 5 situations that are considered in the situation analysis. Product situation, competitors situation, opportunities and threats analysis, the distribution situation, and of course E for environmental analysis. So this is what we are going to understand in the present situation, answering a current question called where are we now. This is about situation analysis, point number 1. Then the second point we're talking about is competitors analysis. We are now going to analyze competition and industry, right? Competition and industry are 2 very important things that we need to consider. 7 factors are there in competitive analysis. So along with me, if you're noting it down, you can note down. Point number 1 is about dominant economic features in the industry, nature and strength of competition, triggers of change, identifying the strongest and the weakest rivals, likely strategic move of the rivals. You always don't bother about yourself alone, you will also catch up with the likely strategic move of rivals. And then after doing these 5 steps in the competitive analysis, you will analyze what are the key factors for competitive success, or the key factors of competitive success. And 7th point talks about how attractive an industry is financially, and the growth prospects, right? Growth prospects. So this is what we have in competitive analysis. Then, as you know, we have a SWOT and TOS analysis. SWOT talks about strength, weakness, opportunity and threat. Guys, SWOT, please remember, is only a comparative framework. SWOT is not a comparison. So whenever you want to do a comparison, Heinz Wirich came up with a TOS analysis. What is a TOS matrix or a TOS analysis? TOS matrix talk about strength versus opportunity, right? It also talks about weakness to opportunity, strength to a threat, and weakness to a threat. TOS compares these factors. In SWOT analysis, you only plot them, but in TOS, you actually compare them, right? With which strengths you can grab what opportunities, because of what weaknesses you are losing out some opportunities, because of which strength a threat is not a threat anymore, and because of what weakness a threat is continuing to be dominant. These are something that you need to do in the TOS analysis. Of course, strength, weakness, opportunity, threat, a list of examples are given in your material. You can go through that as well. Then coming up to one of the most important, and ever since the concept has been introduced, a question has definitely come in the exam for portfolio analysis. Before even I deal portfolio analysis, there are three topics which exclusively are supposed to be understood for portfolio analysis, which is the concept of SBU, which is nothing but a key business. SBU is a key business. And then we have the concept of experience curve, whereby by repeatedly doing some work, the per unit cost definitely declines, is what an experience curve believes in. And then the concept of product life cycle. Guys, I hope everybody at this juncture revising this topic, product life cycle. You know that there are 4 stages in the product's life cycle. It goes up as an S-shaped curve: introduction, growth, and this peak point of saturation, which is maturity, and then the product starts declining, right? Introduction, growth, maturity, and decline being the 4 stages. Coming back to portfolio analysis, we have 4 theories in portfolio analysis. First of which is the Boston Consulting Group growth matrix. We were talking about 2 things: market on the vertical axis and market share on the x-axis. High market growth rate, market growth, high and low, market share, high and low. High to high are called as stars. Low to high will be called as cash cows, while a question mark is a situation even in a high growth rate market you're not able to grow, and low to low is classified as dogs, right, which are very low doing businesses. They also gave us 4 options of build, hold, harvest, and divest, right? So this is all about what a Boston Consulting Group matrix is. Then came up Igor Ansoff's product growth matrix, where we talked about products, on the horizontal axis, and markets always on the vertical axis. Existing markets, new markets, existing products, new products, right? What are those called as? An existing to existing is called market penetration. Existing market into getting a new product is called product development. New market getting an existing product is called market development, and a new to new situation is called a diversification. Coming up next is Arthur D. Little's ADL matrix, where he categorized companies as dominant, strong, favorable, tenable, and weak, and product life cycle as embryonic, growth, maturity, and aging, and how companies function in all these are the points that we discussed in this. Then towards the end, lastly, there is GE model. Guys, the GE model talks about 2 situations: market attractiveness and business attractiveness. This time the BCG had only high and low. That was a problem, right? So that is where here we are talking about high, medium, and low, to high, medium, and low, with the same 4 options of build, hold, harvest, and divest, here called as invest, protect. So invest, protect, harvest, and divest continue to remain the 4 options. Now what to do in each of these situations is what we are looking at. In this situation of high to high, we will invest; high to medium, we will invest; and high to low, we will protect. Then in this case of medium to high, we will still go for investing. We will protect when it is medium to medium on a conservative note. Of course, it's not wrong to invest at this stage, but it's a conservative step that we take to protect ourselves, and a medium to low is the right situation for you to slowly come out of the business, called harvest. Low to a high market is just to protect, and then low to a medium market is again, what did you do with medium to low? Harvest. So here also you go for harvest. And lastly, low to low is kind of a situation of a dog, low to low. So where we told that it will be divested, same here also you will go for divesting. So these are the 4 portfolio theories, guys: BCG, ANSO product growth matrix, ADL, and the GE model. That completes our 4 strategic analysis on situation analysis, competitor analysis, SWOT and TOS analysis, and portfolio analysis. This is our 3rd chapter. Are you clear on this point? Should I move on to the fourth chapter? Very good. The fourth chapter is now talking about strategic alternatives. What are the four strategic alternatives that are discussed in chapter number 4? First of which are the 4 strategies given by Glueck and Josh. Then we talk about the 3 strategies given by Michael Porter. Then we will be talking about an extension to that. There is a best cost provider strategy. And of course, the last one, the most important one, would be what is called as grand strategies. Let's look at chapter number 4, guys, on a very quick note. In chapter number 4, there is also a discussion of the breakup of the definition of strategic management that I think is pretty simple: creating vision, setting objectives, crafting a strategy, implementing and executing, which I believe you can take care. Right, chapter number 4, I'm going with the strategic alternatives, guys, which is very important from the consideration of the exam. These alternatives here, first of which I'm talking about Glueck and Josh. William F. Glueck and Lawrence R. Josh, they came up with 4 fantastic strategies of stability, which means to remain same, no ambitions of growth or no doing any great investments, stay same, stability. Then talk about expansion. Then talk about stability, expansion. Then there is retrenchment, is to cut down. When you are not making good things in business, I think it's good to come out. And then there is something called combination. Combination is worked out in a multi-product business. How does combination work out in a multi-product business? In one place you will go for stability, in another you might want to expand, and in somewhere else you might want to retrench your product. Expansion in these people's note are by 2 ways. Expansion by way of diversification, and that is entering new markets with new products, and expansion by way of mergers and acquisition. That is the style of expansion discussed by Glueck and Josh. Michael Porter in the next lot comes up with 3 fantastic strategies. Michael Porter's strategies are also called as base generic strategies, in which he talks about cost leadership, which is what? Striving to be the lowest cost producer in the market. Then he talks about differentiation. So this talks about low cost. Then he talks about differentiation. Differentiation is that kind of a strategy where you want to develop unique products in the market which others don't have, so that you can charge a premium for that unique product. Uniqueness in the product will help you gain that little edge on premium. And then the last one is called a focus strategy. Focus is on what? A target niche. You have a segmented market which you are exclusively focusing on. This is niche marketing, like what luxury products do, like say Merck, BMW. All these companies target only the high net worth or high income group. So like that you have a target group. Now like say Junior Horlicks is there, is focusing from kids from 0 to 3 years. Like say, so you exclusively have your target niche which is focus. Cost leadership, striving to be the low cost producer. Differentiation, being unique, and focus is to target an exclusive group, are Michael Porter's 3 strategies. Apart from this, to continue this, there is also something called as best cost provider strategy. What is it called as? Best cost provider. Who is talking about value, guys? Value conscious. Here we are discussing the best cost provider about a value conscious buyer. So his idea is always on taste and preferences that suit him, and value, and most importantly affordability. So if you look at the table that is given down there, you will have still these 3 things, and of course the best cost provider to come in to talk about value consciousness. How important is value for him, right? He is ready to pay any amount, but he needs value in that. He is not talking about low cost, he is not talking about high cost, he is talking about the best cost. What do you mean by best cost? Whichever gives him that value, that will become the best cost. Last but the most important strategies of all are the grand strategies. Guys, grand strategies are further broken down into 4 actually: stability, expansion, retrenchment, and combination, right? Let me take a little space extra to discuss all those 4, because I hope you understood all these, right? Let's now go ahead with grand strategies. Grand strategies by its own has several subtopics which can be asked as separate questions. So let me discuss grand strategies in a little more detail. Grand strategies, we are talking about stability. Like guys, there's nothing much to discuss about stability, because stability is about staying same, status quo, maintaining the status quo, not challenging anything. No much investments, no big risks, right? So no investments, no risks. It's a very, very, very simple goal maintaining strategy. That's it. No big doing of anything, or spending money or shelling out something. But when it comes to expansion, this is the most important grand strategy, right? In Glueck and Josh, if you looked at it, their ways of expansion are two of those. What is that? Diversification and mergers and acquisition, right? Here also, the ways of expansion are intensification and diversification. Right, intensification is further classified into 3 stages. I am drawing back your attention to Igor Ansoff product growth matrix, which talked about market penetration, market development and product development. If you do any of these 3, it is called intensification. When you talk about diversify, it is going new to new, right? In terms of diversification, we have 4 diversification. Vertical diversification, that means getting into the same business at a high scale or acquiring a smaller business. Horizontal diversification, where you are actually going to acquire maybe like something like a byproduct or a complementary product, you are entering into those businesses. Then comes concentric diversification. What is concentric diversification, guys? Is about same technology or same process or technology. And the last one is about conglomerate, where there is no linkage existing, no link between your existing products and new products, absolutely completely new business you are diversifying into, right? That's about the expansion strategy in terms of grand strategies. And the third strategy is about retrenching, where again you have 3 alternatives. One talking about turnaround. What's a turnaround strategy, guys? Turnaround is giving one last chance, and in this concept I want you to tell that indicators of turnaround is an important concept, and the 10 aspects of turnaround. 10 aspects of turnaround. These are 2 concepts in this. I want you guys to go through with it. And then after turnaround, there's something called as divestment. What is divestment, guys? Divestment is all about selling a portion of business, not the whole one, selling a portion of business. And then we have the last one to come up with, which is called as liquidation. Liquidation is a last strategy. That's because no businessman wants to kill his own business. Liquidation is about selling the total business, So there's nothing that you're looking out for anymore. It's completely gone, right? So guys, turnaround. If it's not working out, divest, that sell the portion of the business. If that's also not working out, sell the whole business, right? So this is what we have in your chapter number 4, where we have dealt about all the strategic alternatives, which means all the business strategies that you can adopt, right? We will catch up with chapter number 5. In chapter number 5, we will be dealing with all the 5 functional strategies plus an R&D strategy. So the 6 strategies in functional areas is what we are going to deal next in the chapter number 5. Right, in chapter number 5, we are discussing about the various functional strategies. So functional strategies, guys, how many functions we have in business? Right, we have 5 functions plus R&D to be the 6th one. So marketing being the first one, marketing, finance, HR strategy, then there is a small one called production strategy, right? Then you also have finance, marketing, HR, production, then supply chain management, or this is something to do with inventory. And then lastly, but most important one is R&D. Since this is an optional one, because most people don't do it, some people do it, some people not. Okay, let's see what are the functional strategies dealing up with. Guys, in marketing, we will deal with delivering value to the customer. Delivering value to customer. That's the most important part of marketing. In the same thing, we will be dealing with something called as marketing mix. Remember what is marketing mix? Marketing mix talks about the 4 P's, right? Product, price, place and promotion, right? With the latest addition, we have the 3 additional P's, right? That is about people, physical evidence and process. This is also very important to understand. They've been asking questions from these 4 P's, and 3 P's was a separate question as recently as a couple of attempts back. Then moving on, the last things are the 14 different forms of marketing, guys, right? Augmented marketing, synchro marketing, place marketing, person marketing, de-marketing. There are different forms, 14 different forms are there. I want you to go through all those 14 because right now there's no point going through, they're all one-liners. And then relationship marketing, de-marketing, synchro marketing, social marketing, tourism marketing, person marketing. So there is all that stuff in that, and 1 or 2 questions are always have been asked from the types of marketing. Coming to finance, there are 4 very important points on how to raise capital, how to raise funds, That's the first thing that you need to check in finance. Then it is about budgets or projected financial statements. Then it is about management and use of funds. These 3 important steps. And the 4th is the most important thing and the most asked question in the exam: evaluating the worth of a business. Evaluating worth of business, which is again a very important consideration, guys. 4 points are there in evaluating, 3 points are there, 5 approaches. Evaluating the worth of a business. The first one is net worth method, which means stockholders equity, net worth method. Second one, price of the company is equal to 5 times of profit of the current year, or you can use average profit of 5 years also. Then we have 3 more approaches, which is price of similar company. Price of a similar company, that is also one approach. Then we have the PE ratio method, right? PE multiple, you will get it by dividing MPS by EPS. And then once the PE is ready, once your PE is ready, average profit of 5 years into PE is what? And then the next one is outstanding shares method, which is nothing but business value is equal to number of shares into price of share plus premium per share. That's how you go with the 5 methods. A very important 4 marks question from this chapter that has come so many times. Then production strategy is a very simple one. There are only 2 points on what the production system should be and how it is to be operated. HR strategy has a very important question called as the role of HR manager. What is the role of a HR manager? There are 7 points in the role of a HR manager. That is about building core competency, creating competitive advantage, creating a healthy environment for work conditions, and then the role of HR manager also is about making sure that the organization achieves certain unique capabilities by doing all this, and exercising ethics leadership will be the last role of the HR manager. Then moving up with supply chain management, guys. Supply chain management is talking about 2 things here, right? We have logistics and we have supply chain management. It's all about movement and storage of goods, right? And the 7 steps in supply chain management, right? From procurement, manufacturing, and then distribution, outsourcing, marketing, sales, services, and performance measurement. So 7 points you need to focus on supply chain management. And lastly, in R&D, we have 3 strategies in R&D, right? Either you be the first firm to do it. Second one is about imitation, intelligent imitation, that is copy a firm that is successful. And third one is mass production. So this is all about what you have in your 5th chapter. 5 theories on finance, marketing, HR, production, supply chain management, and R&D. Of course, in R&D, guys, there is a comparison of whether you are supposed to do R&D or not do R&D, in-house or out-house, right? We've got a couple of, let me give you a table. I think that will be very useful for you. It's based on technology and market growth, doing R&D and strategy, whether you have to do it here or not. And if the technology growth is fast, let's say technology growth is slow, market growth rate is moderate, R&D will be a yes, and you have ample amount of time, so you can do it in-house. Then if the technology growth is fast, guys, when the technology growth is fast, doing R&D is not an ideal thing, because by the time you develop at the end of it, you will develop an outdated product. So irrespective of whether the market is slow, whatever it is, it's not a good time to do R&D, so I won't do R&D. Then if the technological progress is slow, but the market growth rate is fast, I think this is a time where you can do R&D, but since market growth rate is fast, you need results also quick. So you might as well go for outsourcing. And in the fourth case, where both are fast, it is not at all an ideal situation to do R&D. So therefore, acquire a business which has already done the R&D. That's it. That's what are some things. So you can take a frame of this. This is what your fifth chapter is all about on functional strategies. Let me move on to topic number 6, that is chapter number 6, where we will be dealing about various points that are meant for implementation. Straight away guys, I am going with implementation structures, then I will deal value chain analysis quickly, then we will talk about the leadership, strategic change and strategic control. Let me put up all the topics that I am going to discuss in chapter number 6. Chapter 6, I am going to take you through the structures. How many structures are there guys? The 6 structures. First one is functional, then we have divisional structure, then we have an SBU structure, and after all we have one of the very important structures called the matrix structure, and then there is something called as network structure. The latest to add up to this list is called the hourglass structure, which is a little wider in the top, narrow in the middle, and again wider in the bottom, right? It goes like this, an hourglass structure. Very less top management, and even more lesser middle management, and a higher level, higher staff at the lower level, hourglass structure. These are the various structures, and this is a very important piece of this topic. You got to learn it. And then there are 3 very important topics on what are SBUs, how to build core competencies. You want to understand this, and more importantly, Michael Porter's value chain analysis, right? Value chain analysis classifies into primary activities and support activities. Primary activities are inbound logistics, operations, outbound logistics, right? Marketing and sales and services, while support activities are infrastructure, procurement, human resources, and of course technology. Guys, Michael Porter's value chain is a very important topic. I want everybody to focus on that. And then there is an important topic here again called managing linkages, how to manage linkages. Then comes the concept of leadership. One of the very important questions in leadership is the types of leadership. 2 types of leadership are there, which are the most asked questions on this topic. Transformational leadership style, transformation in leadership, and a transactional leadership style is something to do with leadership. Say transaction and transformation. Here it's all about motivation, and here it is all about exchange of rewards. Exchange of rewards. Alright, moving up to the next concept is called strategic change. How do you drive change? Guys, change can't come in a one go. So therefore, definitely takes time, considerable effort and all that. So therefore, it is very important that we manage a strategic change. Under strategic change, there is Kurt Levin's change process, which is very important. Kurt Lewin change process talks about unfreezing the situation, changing the situation, and refreezing the situation, which is very important again. Unfreezing, changing and refreezing, one of the very important topics, Kurt Lewin change process. And the last topic to deal in this chapter is about strategic control. We have at all levels operational, control topic, right? We have operational control, managerial control, and we also have strategic control. Guys, the term strategic control is further broken down here into 4 parts, where you're talking about premise control, and of course I'm running short of space, so I'm just talking about those. Premise control, there are 4 subtopics in strategic control that alone could be a separate question again. And then sometimes they will leave everything from here and they'll ask you one concept towards the end. what is the importance of culture and strategy connection, right? Is culture a valuable ally or is culture a hindrance? How is it? Culture should always be in alignment with the strategy, and all that stuff is what we are looking at in this particular thing. I think it's a very interesting chapter to bring around. I summed it up very quickly and very easily, but I want everybody to go through this chapter in a greater detail because there's immense amount of content that we can't probably sum it up in such quick time. But I think that's a broad picture of what you have in chapter number 6, and I don't want you to miss any of these concepts. This one day before the exams, you're just looking at this, and tomorrow is your exam. I think this should give you a complete idea of what we have and what we are not supposed to miss. Culture and strategy, guys, is one such topic which often comes in the exam to again surprise you suddenly. Let's move to the last chapter in the syllabus, guys, where we will be talking about 4 fantastic techniques on how you can change your business from a normal one to an exceedingly doing well business. That is chapter number 7, bringing you or taking you to a reaching strategic edge. Chapter number 7 dealing up with a reaching strategic edge. The first of those is BPR, that is business process re-engineering, right? Under business process re-engineering, what is it? Business process re-engineering is about 3 things: fundamental redesign, fundamental rethinking, radical redesign, and of course dramatic improvement. So this is what BPR is all about: fundamental rethinking, radical redesign, and how you go about getting the BPR done. Is IT involvement important in BPR? What are the success factors in BPR? And there's a 5-step BPR process which I would like you to go through. And then there's a concept in BPR where you're talking about restructuring versus re-engineering. Guys, the structure that I discussed in the previous segment, that versus re-engineering. Re-engineering is changing all the process. Restructuring is only making some structural changes. So there's a huge difference between both those, and there are also some downsides of the concept of BPR. You might as well want to consider that. Then moving up next is a concept called benchmarking. What is benchmarking? A process of setting up benchmark, which is nothing but a standard. Benchmark is a standard or a point of reference. Standard or a point of reference. Then there are 6 steps in discussing about what benchmark is all about. It's very simple. First, identify the need for a benchmark. 2, study existing process, study existing. 3, understand best business process, understand the best. So 2 and 3 you compare existing versus best. Prepare gap report. What is the difference between best and yours? Prepare a gap report. And then lastly, you can go for implementation of that, whatever is the thing, right? This is about benchmarking. Coming up next is a concept on total quality management. What are you going to do with total quality management? TQM. Guys, total quality management has 14 steps in total quality management. You can just run through that. There have been hardly any questions in the exam from those 14 steps, but there can be a question in the exam which talks about the difference between traditional management and TQM. What is the difference in operating traditional management and TQM? It could be a very important question. So these are the 2 concepts that are there in TQM. And lastly, you have a concept called Six Sigma, where a very important question is about going up implementation of Six Sigma to existing products and to new products. You know the technique, I believe. Existing products, it's what? DMAIC. I define, measure, analyze, improve and control. The word improve because already the process is existing and then taking care. New product is about DMADV. D for design and V for verify. Since it is not there, design it now and go for verification, right? This is the important question in Six Sigma, very important. How is Six Sigma implemented for new products and existing products? And then there are 6 themes of Six Sigma. 6 themes of Six Sigma, which I would again like you to go through because that's also a very important answer, like focusing, genuine focus on the customer, data and fact driven management, to the sixth one, where there is striving for perfection and your ability to tolerate failures, which is one of the very good life principles also. Always try and strive for perfection. You will meet a lot of failures in between, tolerate all of them and go in. Sometimes they leave all these concepts and they will come to some contemporary issues like connection between strategic management and e-commerce. You can read that. And there's one of the very frequently asked questions, that is a strategic management necessary in non-profit organizations? Is strategic management necessary in non-profit organizations? The answer is a yes. In educational institutions, the answer is a yes. In medical organizations, the answer is a yes. And in governmental organizations also, the answer is a yes. So, do you need strategic management? If they ask you in any of these, you might as well want to concentrate on all of that. That's it, guys. That's what we have in the 7th chapter also. BPR, benchmarking, TQM, Six Sigma, and the contemporary issues. Guys, always focus one thing when it comes to the exam. You always have to remember that your answers should be the best, right? When you have to write best answers, it's all about answering, with conviction, and with the way you write should impress the examiner, right? For which you need to remember a lot of things. So this video is a quick attempt to run through the entire syllabus in less than 1 hour, so that you have a complete understanding of what you're doing, right? That's it. That's what I have for you in these 7 chapters. I hope this was pretty useful to you, and if it is useful, like it, share it, and of course subscribe to our channel called tuition.in. And in case you have any doubts or queries, or you want more information about it, you can leave comments below this video. Thank you guys, and wish you all the best.